Hey guys, so this morning I was asked a question about what are my daily routines and what kind of things do I do that are habits of success or that work for me personally. So I thought I'd just ramble for just a moment and see where it goes. One of the things that I do is I actually keep things very simple. I used to think several years ago that if I made a goal like to work out for an hour a day, and then I got stressed or I got phone calls or other people needed me more or something like that, I would feel guilty and undervalued, or that I was failing inside because I didn't do my hour workout. And so one of the things I learned to do is I learned to keep everything very simple, and that's very important for me, is keep it all simple and see where it goes. So here's a few of the things that work for me. Maybe I did, maybe it inspires you as well. Is one of the things is I do start my day. I wake up in bed, and probably a little TMI, but usually at my age I have to go pee or something like that. And I get back in bed, and I also start my day just with a place of gratitude. I just think of 2 to 5 things that I'm really grateful for. And sometimes they're as simple as the little plastic thing on the end of a shoelace, or for my family, or for my health, or whatever it may be. And so I start my day off with that thought process. The second thing I do is I do a check in with myself. And I just kind of say, what do I need today? What is it that I'm supposed to accomplish today? And I just ask that question and I sit in the silence. Sometimes the silence is 10 seconds, sometimes it's 3 minutes. It just whatever it is. And I just try to listen to the thoughts and the inspirations and my gut instincts inside of me in that check in moment. Because sometimes those check in moments will determine my day and what I'm going to focus on and so forth. Some other things that I do throughout the day is almost every single day I do some meditations. Um, I used to try and do the whole, sit up straight, breathe right, everything else, and meditations. And for me, that was maybe it's because I'm ADHD, or maybe I just wasn't disciplined enough, but it wasn't right for me. Wayne Dyer actually taught Laura and I a few years ago in a workshop that we were doing, just to sit back, relax, don't worry about it, don't overthink it. And he took us through a meditative process. I go, bingo, that's exactly right for me. So my meditation processes are anywhere from 4 minutes to 12 minutes. I do one pretty much every single morning. And some of the meditation processes I'll do 5 to 6 times a day when I'm really in my zone. And other times I'm doing good just to get one out the door in the early morning hours. Another thing I do that sounds a little strange, but unless I'm on a very tight schedule or a need, I don't set an alarm clock. I generally wake up with the sunrise, and so in the wintertime that's a little bit later. In the summertime it's a lot earlier. So like literally recently I'm waking up at 5 a.m. at first light pretty much every single morning. I let my body just sleep and do what it needs to do. If it needs to sleep, I let it sleep. If it doesn't, I don't. Sometimes that's 5 hours a night. Sometimes that's up to 7 hours a night. If it needed to be 10 hours a night, I wouldn't complain. It was just, I just let my body do what it needs to do. So, another silly thing that maybe sounds silly, but I actually make my bed every single morning, and I usually try and make it really nice. And I believe in my own consciousness that in making a bed, it's attention to details. Details are what makes your life successful or a failure in every aspect. And so, something as simple as making your bed just sets the tone for the day, for me at least. And not only that, but it's also a really nice way to end your day is by getting into a nicely made bed that's already been foofed and all that kind of stuff. Um, Another thing that I really believe in my daily rituals, it sounds like a ritual, but in my line of work for the last 30 years, is I work in the people industry, and sometimes the people industry is really messy. It's very emotional, it's very needy at times. And one of the things you find is if you're not careful, you'll actually kind of take on the energy and the emotions of other people. And sometimes jumping into the emotional baggage or other things with other people is an essential part of the journey of helping and assisting and contributing to their lives. At the same time, as a general rule, I've learned to try to protect myself a little bit. Kind of put your own oxygen mask on first before trying to put the oxygen mask on other people. I do not make hard and fast rules, but one of the simplistic things I have found is outside of a 911 emergency or something like that, I try to wake up in the first few hours of my morning to deal with no drama. The last couple hours at night, to deal with no drama, and to really absorb and to put myself in a positive place. By doing so, by keeping myself protected from those two time zones, I'm able to control my sleep habits and my productivity and so many other things in that process. So, for example, even some of my employees or things like that, if they call me at 8:30 at night and say, "Hey, Randy, I just wanted to how's the football game going, or how's that going?" I'm like, "Oh, dude, like I'm so glad you called," or whatever. That's really cool. If they call me at 8:30 at night, and it's kind of just about something that really could have waited till 10 a.m. the next morning, and it's kind of work related and drama filled or something like that, I usually kind of say, "Hey, that's great," and I find myself cutting them off, and inside I actually have an agitation, and agitation is not towards them, the agitation is towards my protection. You're taking away a little bit of my oxygen, and I'll just simply ask them really politely, "Hey, can you put that on an email and send it to me? If it's important enough for you to call me at 8:30 at night or to text me at 7 a.m. in the morning, then it must be so important. Can you just put it in an email so that I can, get to it as soon as we can?" Now, obviously, it's, people that really need needs, or, they have a situation or whatever. I'm the guy that's there at 2 a.m. in the morning. So that's not a question for me, but I've also had to learn to differentiate between those two things. The news. Actually, one of my daily routines is I do check the news. Years ago, I actually used to wake up around 5:30 in the morning, and I would start with CNN. And about 2 years into it, I actually was starting to realize, going, wow, you know. And then I started to realize that CNN kind of makes their money, in all news agencies, off of this drama-filled stories, and my own energy. I was actually sapping myself a little bit. And so in that process, I've learned I do check the news sometime or in the morning time, and I usually use BBC for whatever reasons. I check bbc.com, and I just look and see, is there a world war or something dramatic going on that I want to know about or be a part of? And if there's not anything, I literally, it's 20 seconds or less almost every single morning. I actually isolate myself from most news sources. And the reason why is because most of them are not high energy. They're not important to my goals, my dream board, my life of intention or consciousness engineering. And through that process, I have to protect myself from that as well. One of the things that may surprise some people is I actually like social media, but not the way that most people think of it. In my use of social media, like for example on Facebook, I don't remember how many friends I have, but it seems like a lot to me. And but the part of my social media that I go check is we have some private family pages, and there it's a place that we post pictures of my grandchildren, my nieces and nephews, my cousins, my sister, my mom, and so forth. And it's my number one check-in place. I look around and just say, "Hey, how's the family doing? Anything cool, or anybody doing something exciting or something?" Because it connects me to something that's very important to me, is that my family and so forth. So my social media is not used in the way that most people use it. I actually use it to connect me with family members that live across the country and so forth. Another daily habit, and I do actually have some tangible daily habits too, but one of my other daily habits is actually what I call essentialism, is looking through the eyes of what's the one thing or the two things that I can do today that will lead me closer to my goals. And in my goals, I break them down like this. I don't know if you can read this, but I have little acronyms that I use and so forth. But I use love, family, health, wealth, being a contributor to our society, to our life, and helping other people. And I like to call them experiences. Experiences is the bucket list. It's the fun. It's the adventure of things. It's the places that you want to travel to. It's sitting in your backyard and making a gourmet meal on the grill. It's the number of ski days and being in the mountains. It's riding your mountain bike and finding the groove and the rhythm as your bike flows through the trees. You know, it's learning new languages, cultures. I'm not very right-brained or artistic in nature, but it's learning to paint or to draw. Those are experiences. That's the bucket list. And in my daily rituals, I believe in taking my bucket list and whenever possible, emptying it, getting it done, experiencing it, feeling it, and doing it. So another big thing for me is reading. I used to read a lot more than I do now, but here's my reading ritual, is I read something every single day. And here's my commitment, is in reading, sometimes I commit just to read one paragraph a day. Now, most of the time that turns into a page, 3 pages, paragraphs, chapters, whatever it turns into. But in that process, my commitment is to keep it simple. I just read one thing a day. And again, probably a little TMI, but if, best reading place in the whole house is if you got to take a dump, why not take a book with you and glance through something or whatever. And, but reading becomes very important for me. Now, as I've gotten a little bit older, even though I still probably knock off between 20 to 30 books a year, with the internet and YouTube and things like that, I've also found that I can use my driving time, I can use my workout time, I can use other moments in time, and to listen to a TED Talk, to a podcast, to something inspirational or motivational, something that just inspires, lifts up, moves me. Every single day, mandatory. Even though I only commit to reading that one paragraph every single day, usually speaking, I probably spend between 15 to 20, 30 minutes a day in one of those formats. So working out. I am not, even though I'm pretty active and feel pretty healthy and good for my age and everything else, I don't overly work out. It's the same thing. It used to be something that it was like, you got to work out an hour a day, 4 times a week and all this kind of stuff. And I go, that's too overwhelming for me. So here's my commitment to myself. I work out 4 minutes a day. And sometimes 4 minutes turns into bike rides, to ski days, to full-on workouts or whatever. But in that 4 minutes, I do anything from a round of push-ups to, squats to whatever. I just commit to 4 minutes every single day. Even in 4 minutes, you can easily jog a half a mile, at least for me, I can. And in that half a mile, that's actually a good workout. And surprisingly, if I do 4 minutes a day, 7 days a week, obviously that usually turns into a little bit more once you get going. But in that process of 4 minutes a day, it's surprising what kind of results, at least I feel I can get. One of my other things and my daily rituals is my father passed away this past year, last fall. And so one of my daily rituals is actually to connect with my mom every single day. And I do it through different mediums. Sometimes it's text, sometimes it's phone calls. Sometimes we just play words with friends on the on our computer, our phones or whatever on the app. And but I just connect with her pretty much every single morning, every single night. That's extremely important to me at this stage in her place in life, especially having lost Dad recently. But it's a daily ritual. It's a connection point. Another major connection point is if you kind of notice that the very place I like to be is love, and love starts with myself. Love extends to my wife. Love then it starts to extend to all places, all people, even to our planet Earth and so forth. But part of my morning ritual is actually with Laura, and our nightly rituals is that we begin and end our day with very simple check-ins and things. And so usually I wake up much earlier than she does, but once I wake up, we usually have a little bit, we call it cuddle time. And you just kind of ask her like, hey, how are your sleeps? How are your dreams? Whatever it is, but we cuddle, we embrace, and sometimes that's literally just a few moments of time, sometimes at 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a half an hour. It just depends on whatever's natural and for us. But in that process, we usually end our day with a very simple check-in as well. It's very natural. It's not like some kind of technique or something. But it's essential for us. And in those check-in times, it's our moment to connect. It's kind of our simplistic way of bonding soul to soul. It happens to be that we work together as well. And so if we're not careful, it's very easy to allow our personal lives to become our work lives. So we've had to create separation and things that we do. And throughout our week, you know, I call them dates. We do Costco dates, we do dinner dates, we do lunch dates. We have coffee almost every single morning, somewhere between, usually, unless we need to be somewhere early in the morning, it's usually between 9 and 9:30 a.m. after we've already done some of our morning rituals. One of those other morning rituals is actually long before coffee or anything else. It starts off with hydration. And my first glass of water starts off with, I've used different brands or whatever, but it's greens. I like to start my day off with strong hydration. And I find personally, for me, my energy level stays up and my health stays up if I stay hydrated throughout my day. And so I start my day off with water. Lemon water is also another common element that we use. The greens is something I like to use. I use sometimes a combination of all those things. But no matter what, I start off, by the time I walk out of my bedroom, the first place I'm going is to that kitchen to get my hydration started for the day in that process. Now, with all that said, when I go back to my morning thing and say, what is it that I need today, and what's the one thing or the two things that I can do that will make more of a difference than anything else? And I begin my day with that question. From that, I instinctively seem to know what rituals I need on that particular day. Now, a few years ago, I was using rituals where on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I would use certain routines. And I kept the routines to 22 minutes actually, and now I've kind of migrated away from that and that stringent calendar thing to literally living in the question. And for me, at least where it seems to be working for me, is part of that daily routine is living in the question. And part of that question comes back to what I call living with intention and living with consciousness engineering. And part of that question is, what do I need? But also, what do I need to give or to do today? And sometimes those moments of that 30 seconds, that 8 minutes or whatever it is when I feel inspired, or I feel something like to call somebody, to send an email, to like something on their Facebook page, or that a different thing in our business world needs to happen, or that I need to, put a little bit of extra time into my personal health and fitness or something like that. Whatever it is, I've learned to follow those gut instincts, listen to them, and create my day around them. So anyway, that's was my ramblings or whatever it is to the question about my daily routines. Thanks.